Hey guys, this is round 2 of me trying to make a trinket dish with air dry clay. This time I decided I was going to use molds to see if I could get a more uniform shape. And instead of doing a bowl, I decided that we would go with something a bit flatter. So that's where we have the rectangular mold um, going on. And so all I did was cut the clay into pieces and try to roll it out so that I could also get it applied as evenly as possible to the mold itself. And once I had the mold completed, I decided that I wanted to add something to the dish that was also going to just kind of jazz it up a little. And I opted to do a fleur de lis design, but instead of just trying to etch it into the dish, I went ahead and tried to make a more 3D version. Now, I didn't think about this when I first started to use the stencil to create the fleur de lis, but the way the stencil is made, the fleur de lis shape is actually in separate pieces. So when I started to slice the piece out of the clay, I ended up with 5 pieces to do the fleur de lis. So I had to make sure when I was getting it applied to the dish itself that I put it together properly. So I kept having to reference back to the stencil, um, but I still don't think it turned out too bad. After I finished cutting all of the little pieces of the fleur de lis out, I let this and the dish itself dry. And then after it was dried, I went ahead and painted everything. And this is where you'll start to see that I wasn't quite sure where I wanted to go with this. And I say that because I knew I wanted the dish itself to have this red color, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do as far as the fleur de lis itself, which is why I started with that black. Um, but this will start to take on some different looks as we go along. I I started off with the red and the black because I thought, it would look really nice together that way. And I would do gold along the edges of the dish itself. But I found that the paint was getting streaky. And even as I added paint to it, allowing dry time between the layers, it just wasn't giving me this solid, beautiful coat of red that I was looking for. And I also um, had decided before doing anything as far as the red that I wasn't really loving the whole black fleur de lis, which is why I ended up using the paint marker to make it gold. But then the gold didn't feel like enough, so I ended up adding a metallic paint over that. And then that ended up also not being enough once I figured out what I wanted to do as far as the color on the dish itself. And I'll go ahead and explain it now. So I decided after several attempts at adding more paint to the dish that I just didn't want to keep that red. I wasn't happy with the color, so I ended up using a layer of resin over that part of the dish. I'm happy that I did that for 2 reasons. One is that the color of the pigment powder that I used was beautiful. But also, it just helped make sure that I had even more reinforcement and adhesion of that fleur de lis since I had to apply it separately. So, in addition to that weld bond glue that I used underneath the um, the design itself, now the resin is also holding that in place. Because the layer of resin ended up looking so nice, I knew that I had to do something to make that fleur de lis and the edges of the dish just, I don't know, I just needed to do something to make it look a lot better. So I did end up adding gold leaf to those pieces, and I didn't record doing the gold leaf, but I do have a recording of, what it looked like at the end of everything. And I'm so much happier with how it ended up from how it was going to be, because originally it was just going to be, that red and black theme with just the gold along the border. And so taking these extra steps really helped turn this into something that I really, really like at the end of the day. I did have some extra resin left over when I did this piece, so I was able to make a secondary dish. Um, and both of the dishes are going to my mom, and she already has ideas about where she wants to place them, which is awesome. But I mean, that's pretty much it, you guys. So, this is how I went from just this kind of basic clay thing to something that um, just has a little more pizzazz and looks really pretty and just ready for display. Um, Thank you so much for watching. If you feel so inclined to follow along with my shenanigans, then make sure you subscribe. And I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are. Bye, guys.